is available to on Prime. Life of Brian is available. Meaning of Life is available. Flying Circus, Holy Grail. Okay, it is on Prime Video. No, it's currently unavailable on Prime Video. Okay, where was it? Was it on Paramount? Let's see. I know I'd found it and I thought I'd remembered which one it was on, but Monty. Oops. I don't care about your advertisements. I'm searching for something. Monty Python. Search. Come on. Search. Try this again. Search. The Holy Grail. It's on one of the streaming services that I have. I thought it was Netflix, but I don't think it's HBO in this case. But everything's running kind of slow today, so I'm not absolutely sure. Let me try searching a different way here. The Holy Grail. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Okay, yeah, it is on Netflix. Okay, I thought it was Netflix. So, anyway, you can watch the classic Monty Python and the Holy Grail, probably the single most quoted movie slash sketch in all of nerddom, with the possible exception of The Princess Bride. It's either the Holy Grail or The Princess Bride are the most. Oh, did we lose Lurch? Are you still there, Lurch?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, your cam just got lost, though.
Oh, everything wasn't working. You couldn't hear me. I was yelling at you. I was like, "It's on Netflix, Doc."
Yeah, I found it on Netflix finally, but no.
Yeah.
You finally dropped out, but now you're back. I can see you again. Yeah, it is on Netflix. We got the Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Like I said, it's the single most quoted, or tied for the single most quoted movie in all of nerddom with The Princess Bride. Those are probably the two biggest out there.
It's definitely the most quoted in D&D groups.
That and The Princess Bride, they're both about equal.
Is it?
I mean,
you've got a lot more experience than I do in D&D groups, but I know when I played, Holy Grail was the most quoted.
Holy Grail is up there, but I mean, how many times I've heard somebody say, "My name is Inigo Montoya, you killing my father, prepare to die." Or, "As you wish." I mean, you get a lot of those too. Or, "Inconceivable." But the two are probably the tied for the most quoted of movies. And so it's definitely one that I recommend some of the newer people go watch, because you've heard the quotes and it is just funny from start to finish. It is a hilarious movie. Monty Python and the Monty Python Players is a group of British comedians. John Cleese, Rowan Atkinson, even Hugh Laurie have all been with Monty Python. And they've done such great stuff. And some of the characters of British humor that we've seen later on reprised in their own movies, like Mr. Bean, started out as Monty Python sketches. And Monty Python just does hilarious work. They take something like the Quest for the Holy Grail and they make it the campiest, funniest, most ludicrous adventure you've ever fathomed. they introduce us to concepts like the holy hand grenade and the Vorpal bunny, the bunny rabbit that could destroy a whole platoon of knights.
Man.
Pointy
teeth.
This is big, sharp, pointy teeth. Magic the Gathering has been influenced by the Holy Grail because the prodigal sorcerer card in Magic the Gathering's nickname is Tim. Because when the sorcerer is introduced in the Holy Grail, he says, my name is, some call me Tim. And so Tim is the sorcerer from the Holy Grail.
I read that he had an entirely different name, but when they filmed, he could, when he got to his line, he couldn't remember his character's name, and he just said Tim.
Well, I think he was supposed to be Merlin, but he became Tim, and Tim just stuck. But he talks about the fierce beast. This is there. It is. Is it behind the rabbit? It is the rabbit. Oh, rabbit! Oh, you had me pooping in my armor. This is it. Yes. No, it's got big, sharp fierce. This is the most ill-mannered rabbit you've ever seen. He's got his wit, and he sends him out there, and he freaking rabbit goes for the throat and beheads the knight like that. It's like, run away, run away!
You sounded like the fat bastard from Austin Powers.
Baby. The other white meat, baby.
I love that bit with the holy hand grenade, and they're like, on 3 shall the grenade be thrown.
3 be the number of the counting, and the number of the counting be...
Not on 5. 5 is outright.
5 is right out.
The number of the count shall be 3.
Says,
and then they pull the pin like 1, 2, 5. 3, sir. 3.
Yeah.
It's been 5 seconds.
Yeah. It says, you take up the holy hand grenade, and you pull out the pin, and the counting of 3. 3 being the number of the counting, and the number of the counting being 3. You are not to count to 2 unless it is to be followed by 3. Nor are you to be counted to 4. 5 is right out. 3 being the number of the counting, and the number of the counting being 3. 1, 2, 4. 3, my lord. Oh, 3. Or, what is your name? My name is Sir Lancelot. What is your quest? I seek the Holy Grail. What is your favorite color? Blue. You may pass. Oh, that's easy. Yeah. What is your name? My name is Sir Percival. What is your quest? I seek the Holy Grail. What is the capital of Astoria? What? I don't know that. What?
What was the last one? It was
how fast? What is your name? King Arthur of the Britons. What is your quest? I seek the Holy Grail. What is the average airspeed of an unladen swallow? What do you mean? African or European? I don't know that. Ah! How do you know so much about swallows? A king must know these things. And it harkens back to like the very first scene in the movie. Because they don't ride horses. They have squires behind them with coconuts going.
Yeah. Which, that's another one of those things where supposedly they were intending on having horses, but they didn't have the budget to afford horses, so they just like...
This made it part of the spoof, yeah. And in the first scene of the movie, they come up on this one castle to see if the knight wants to join his troop. And the guy's asking, you don't even have a horse. That's a coconut. And where did you get a coconut anyway? Well, it could have been carried by a swallow. Well, how does a 6-ounce swallow carry an 8-ounce coconut? But for his wings, it must beat for 60 times. And they get all technical and shit. And then it says, well, it could be an African swallow. Well, yeah, that's totally something different. But African swallows are not migratory. Yeah. They get real technical. Yeah. And that harkens back, and then the king remembers that, so that later on he's like, what do you mean? African or European?
Yeah. Oh,
and it's great. And then, of course, Sir Robin has his troupe of minstrels that follow him around to sing his praises. He is brave, Sir Robin. When danger reared his ugly head, he bravely turned his tail, and he got right out and he ran. I did not! It was a strategic retreat!
Yeah.
Or when Lancelot gets stuck by these girls who have lit the Grail-shaped beacon, and they come to save him. We're here to save you. Oh, no, I can handle myself. No, it's so far too perilous. How about a little bit of peril? This is, you must spank us all, and then the oral sex. How about a little bit of peril?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious from start to finish, and it's worth it. So go on Netflix. Most of you have Netflix, and check out the Holy Grail. You've heard it quoted 1,000 times. Don't you really want to know what the joke's all about? Let's get in here. It's long overdue to be in the vault. So I figured this is a good week for it. Let's go to the classic Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
It's low budget slapstick comedy at its best.
It's true British humor at its finest. The Brits know slapstick better than anybody. I mean, the Brits gave us Biddy Hill, and they gave us Monty Python. They gave us the IT Crowd. You should definitely check it out.
Oh, God.
I love the IT Crowd, too. Yeah. If you've ever worked in IT, you know the IT Crowd. Because they are our people.
Yeah.
If you turn it off and back on again. But anyway, so go see Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You will finally get the jokes that all the older gamers are constantly quoting about. And it'll be well worth your time. Speaking of your time and media, we're going into the media section. I didn't pull up a poster for it. I probably should have. But the first thing we're going to talk about is a non-spoiler version of Doctor Strange 2. We will be doing a spoiler version either next week or the week after. What we're hoping to do is get Angel in as a guest so we can have a three-way conversation about Doctor Strange. But that partly depends on Angel's schedule. But this week we're going to talk without spoilers, really. And I didn't pull up a poster for it.
That thing, and the other thing, and then
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And that thing, yeah. No.
Just kind of a spoiler-free mini review of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
First off, I'm going to have to say it starts off immediately with pulse-pounding action. There's no...
Yes.
I mean, it's like you're barely 5 minutes into the movie before you start the superheroing.
I mean, the very opening sequences, action stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
So this movie, it was directed by Sam Raimi, and if you're a Sam Raimi fan, you're probably gonna love this movie.
mm-hmm.
The people I've talked to that don't love the movie don't like Sam Raimi. They don't like Sam Raimi's film style. They didn't like the Evil Dead movies.
How can they not like the Evil Dead movies? That needs to be one of my From the Vault, actually.
Yeah. If you like Evil Dead movies, you'll probably love this.
If you like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, you'll love this. If you like...
Some people have referred to it as Evil Dead 4. And there's definitely... Someone else, I think it was New Rockstars, that said it was kind of a combination of Evil Dead mixed with the Wizard of Oz. And he continued to give like really good examples of why, and I was like, you know what? I cannot refute that on any of your points.
I mean, it is such a phenomenal movie. I know Lurch has seen it at least twice.
I've seen it twice.
Because I told him, I was like, oh my God, after I saw it, he says, yeah, I'm on my way to see it again. What?
I first watched it in regular IMAX, and then I watched it again in IMAX 3D.
And Allison wants to see it again, and she don't like going to the theaters that much.
No, we'll wait until it streams.
We'll wait till it streams, but she wants to see it again. Of course, Doctor Strange, like I said, was the first movie we really went to together and stuff too. So, Doctor Strange is important to us as a couple anyway. But it's also like Benedict Cumberbatch. She loves him. I mean,
Yeah.
and of course, it's just Elizabeth Olsen does a great job as Scarlet Witch. I'm not going to give any reveals here. I will say, without giving spoilers away, the one disappointment I had in the movie was we didn't get to see as much of one particular Illuminati member as I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Without naming names.
We'll mention that the Illuminati was here. It's mentioned in the trailers. But
And
we won't mention who's in the Illuminati, who we get
the only one we know for a fact from the trailers is in there is Charles Xavier as Patrick Stewart. That's revealed in the trailers, so we're not giving you anything with that. We're not going to say anything about any of the other Illuminati members except to say that one of them I wish had used his abilities a little bit more. Just because we just got a taste of him. And he's a well-anticipated character. That's all I'm going to say. So you know he's male, he's anticipated, and he didn't get a lot of his ability usage. But we got several versions of Doctor Strange. That was great. We saw Supreme Strange. We saw Defender Strange. We saw a few different Doctor Stranges in this movie.
Okay, so I think the one you're referring to as Supreme Strange was Dark Strange, not Supreme Strange.
Actually, they've come out and said that it was not Dark Strange, it was Supreme Strange. Raimi and them said that.
Hang on. Are you saying it? So what I'm saying is he's not the same Doctor Strange as the one from the What If series.
Right, the What If series is Dark Strange.
No, the What If series is Supreme Strange.
Well,
this is Dark Strange.
It's 6 of one, half a dozen the other.
The point is it's not the same Strange.
It's not exactly the same Strange, no. We also hear the first time that it's officially called, the cinematic universe is officially called the Marvel 616 universe. It was unofficially called it in Spider-Man when Mysterio said it, but remember, Mysterio was a fake dimensional traveler, so that would not be considered an official designation. This is the first time with multiversal travel that the universe is called the 616 universe, which has been in the comic books for a long time. In fact, the talk was that the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the comic book universe should have different designators, but they both end up being 616. So are they different 616s or are they different designations and somebody got them wrong? But then even within Marvel, the company, the 616 was never 100% official, and they disliked that designator, but it got so much traction that it just became a shorthand for everybody. So 616, the Illuminati are in Marvel Dimension 838. Also, the origin of the 616 number, how they come up with that number, it was 50 less than 666. That was the importance of it. It was 50 less than 666. So they could still later on do a demon dimension at 666 and have it apply because it's the mark of the beast. So they did 50 less than that. And
I wonder why they went with 50 less than that.
They never explain all about the reasoning except for the fact that that's where it came from.
I don't know if this is true, but years and years ago, when I was in high school or college, I was reading this article that claimed that the biblical number of the beast was a mistranslation, and the correct translation of it is 616. The 666 was a mistranslation.
That could be.
Yeah. And so that's something I've wondered about, is if the person who named it for Marvel knew about the mistranslation and chose to use that number because of it or something. But I don't know. It might just be super.
No, they talked to some of the people from Marvel who did admit that it was because it was 50 below 666. But that also could be part of it too. And you never know, because a lot of underlying things don't come to light right away.
Yeah.
We get to see Doctor Strange clean shaven. We see him with a ponytail. We see him with a longer beard. It is a tour de force of Doctor Strange. This movie, you couldn't have fit more Doctor Strange into the movie if you tried. There was so much Doctor Strange in this movie. And that's what you came to the theater for. It was Doctor Strange. You were not disappointed.
There's one thing I want to mention, and it's not, I don't think it's spoilery because of what we saw in the trailers. That large tentacled creature from the trailers, the artwork to it does look similar to Shumagorath. Not exactly. Pretty close to Shumagorath. But he's called Gigantos. And artistically, especially with the spinies on his tentacles, that was not really a feature of Gigantos in the comics. However, how he functions in the movie is just like Gigantos. So, I feel like they took Gigantos and then just applied some Shumagorath similarities to his artistic design, but otherwise it is entirely just Gigantos, which is something I wasn't sure about whenever it was coming up. I was like, oh, that's Shumagorath, but they can't use the name. No, it's not Shumagorath. In fact, after watching it, I would have been disappointed if they did call him Shumagorath, because he did not play out like a Shumagorath should.
But he is very much Cthulhuian, H.P. Lovecraftian in feel.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, a lot of early Marvel comics were influenced by H.P. Lovecraft's work when it came to the mystical arts. Because, of course, the Darkhold was penned by Chthon, which is, of course, heavily mentioned in H.P. Lovecraftian works. Yes. And Chthon wrote the Darkhold, and the Darkhold is the Book of Ultimate Evil in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah. I find it really interesting, and I think it lends to this point about this being Evil Dead 4. The Evil Dead movies were all about
the Necronomicon.
Coming from the Necronomicon, the Book of the Damned, the Book of the Dead, and this is the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned.
The Book of the Dead, yeah. The Darkhold would be the Marvel Universe equivalent of the Necronomicon, exactly. which was penned by the Mad Arab and then translated by, among others, Aleister Crowley back in the 50s.
It's so perfect pairing to put Sam Raimi on this.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, it being a Sam Raimi movie, I will also mention, but not in what role, Bruce Campbell has a cameo. Because Bruce Campbell always has a cameo in Sam Raimi movies, because he used to be Sam and Ted Raimi's babysitter, and they're good friends from their childhood. And so Bruce Campbell is, anytime Sam Raimi does a big production, Bruce gets a walk-on role as a cameo. And as we all know, Bruce Campbell is the king, baby. Hail to the king, baby.
I saw like an interview or something recently where Bruce Campbell was asked about his involvement with stuff. He's like, well, basically, old Sam will give me a call and be like, hey, I need you for a movie. And I'll just ask, when do I need to be where? Where do I need to be? When do I need to be there? His bit was pretty good too. I enjoyed. So yeah.
And I will warn people, if you go out to see the movie, stay through the credits, because there are two post-credit scenes. Two post-credit scenes.
Well, technically, one mid-credits and one post-credits. So
right.
Two scenes to catch. And one of them.
One is really important, really and one is more amusing. And we'll leave it at that. We will go into much more detail when we have Angel here, so we can go into depth. We might even make the whole show practically about it when that happens.
Dude,
Because
the first time I watched this movie, I gasped with
oh,
excitement so many times.
I didn't.
Like I had an audible gasp that had people turn and look at me when it happened.
I did not sleep well the night before, and I still stayed awake for the whole movie, and that's an accomplishment for me
That's
now
amazing.
with my chronic fatigue. I have chronic fatigue. Even a great movie, I'll fall asleep on. I can't help it. I was at
Yeah.
the edge of my seat practically for this whole movie. It was amazing, and I recommend it to everybody. I would go see it in theaters again and pay the $12. I would.
Yeah.
And sit in those damn seats. But
I don't want to give away another factor in this movie that they put out, but part of the lore they added in this movie changes a lot of things in the whole rest of the MCU. Like it makes some significant changes to Infinity War.
it makes some significant
it
things.
changes context.
Also, without giving any reveals, one of the things that another reviewer said that I have to agree with is it makes all the old Marvel TV shows and stuff, at least in some small way, relevant. Not just WandaVision and stuff, but some others that I will go without naming because it might be a bit of a reveal. But it adds credence, and even it adds credence to like the other X-Men franchise because Patrick Stewart, we know, is in it as as Professor X, which it means, but it wasn't exactly that Patrick Stewart Xavier. And
it was Xavier from the '90s cartoon series with the green suit and the yellow
the hover chair. I wasn't going to reveal that, but yeah.
Well,
but that's not a big. Yeah,
the hover chair was shown in the trailer.
Yeah, so it is. Yeah, it is Professor X from the '90s cartoon, but as played by Patrick Stewart from the other X-Men franchise. So we've got all these kind of mixes going in to the thing, and every series has weight on the show. Yeah. Everything does, and so it's very important. And you'll want to, after you watch this, you're going to want to go back and watch some that you may have skipped, just because of the little bit. Even though they may not be super important to the overall story, you'll see that they have bearing on it. In fact, about the only ones I didn't see a direct impact from was Gifted and Runaways. I didn't see anything from either of those two. But just about every other series is and Cloak and Dagger. I didn't see Cloak and Dagger either.
Yeah. On another subject, since to get a little bit away from potential spoiler territory, Danny Elfman was the composer for the music for this.
Yes.
And he did a phenomenal job with the music.
Not to mention when Patrick Stewart rolls into scene and you hear the background track from the '90s cartoon, that was hilarious.
Yeah,
that was just so awesome.
Yeah. There was just the music, the music that Danny Elfman used on this was brilliantly scored. I just can't. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I can't get over how well they did it. It's not 100% set in stone, but this might be my new favorite movie overall.
I'm telling you, it's up there. The Doctor Strange was my favorite Marvel movie. This one might be bumping out the original because it's got so much going on.
Like prior to this, my favorite solo Marvel movie was the first Doctor Strange, but my overall favorite Marvel movie was Infinity War. But that's a big thing,
right?
This, this being a Doctor Strange movie, I like it more than the first Doctor Strange. I think I like it more than Infinity War.
Yeah.
Which is tough because Infinity War
Or was
the
an
movie
epic
that,
scale. Yeah.
yeah, and like my favorite before Infinity War was V for Vendetta, which was my favorite for like 15 years until I saw Infinity War. And
Right.
now I'm like, I think this takes the title from Infinity War for me.
It is great, and it makes us even more salivate about the upcoming movies that are coming out for the Marvel cinematic
Yeah.
universe, because so much is teased at in this movie, and so much potential has already been realized in this movie that like Marvel's just full of. Kevin Feige is a genius. Let's just say that right now. Kevin Feige is a genius, and I'm glad he's in control of both the TV and the movie universe now, because I expect so much more, and I think he'll deliver. And
He's also in charge of the comic book universe now too.
Yeah, and him working with people like Sam Raimi in order to put some of this stuff together is going to just be. I mean, working with Sam Raimi and working with Gunn and working with some of these other great creators, Taika Waititi. I mean, working with some of these people is going to just blow all of this out of the water, and the next few years are going to be so exciting to live through in the comic book universe that I just really I'm salivating thinking about it. And
so, I think we should probably move on to our spoiler discussions of TV shows at this point.
Yes. So spoiler alert. Red alert.
We've been fawning over Doctor Strange for like half an hour now, and
it's not even the big, and it isn't even our big show of it yet. So yeah. It's probably a good segue there. So let's go back to the CW verse, and we're going to start off, of course, with oh my God, Superman and Lois. Spoiler alerts. I cannot repeat enough. Spoiler alerts, because I'm not holding back. I rewatched both of these today.
This is the part of the show where we do talk about spoilers.
And I get into some detail if I've rewatched them recently. And I watched them both today.
I watched Superman and Lois a week ago, so that one I'm probably going to be... And Moon Knight. I watched both of those a week ago, so you're going to have a much stronger recollection than I will. So
because I rewatched Moon Knight today, too. Okay, Superman and Lois. When we last left Superman, Jonathan had just come over from the Bizarro world. Jonathan L. Not Jonathan Kent, Jonathan L. That's how we'll distinguish them. And he had come to merge with his other self, and we had just basically at the end of the episode, he said I was here for him, and turned as Jonathan Kent comes walking up, and then they cut the episode. They'd had all of the big to-do in the Bizarro world with the constant like POV shifts. That was amazingly done. Now, I was going to say that last episode was my favorite episode of the series so far, but now this is my favorite episode of the series so far. This is an amazing episode, okay? Right off the bat, Jonathan shows up, and he is going to merge with the other Jonathan. And he goes, and Lois is like, no, stop. And Jordan runs and basically plays interference a little bit. But Superman comes flying and gets his ass whooped. And Superman comes flying into the universe back to the real world just in time to break it up so that they don't end up merging.
Yeah, so the two Jonathans were already like floating in the air, starting the merge process.
Yeah,
Superman crashed in between them and knocked them apart.
Tackles them basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jonathan leaves, and then we have a couple of things. Jonathan is starting to get the headaches and the being able to see visions of where Jonathan L. is, kind of how Clark was with Bizarro. And so they're monitoring that. Of course, both the kids are upset at the parents because they don't listen to their side of things so much. Jonathan is like, Clark is like, so you were protecting Candace? Why? Is it because I was protecting her? Yeah, well, maybe she should have gotten in trouble because she was dealing drugs. I said, see, you don't listen to me. And he's like, his secret protects the family. He says, well, it's doing a great job of that, isn't it? And, but Clark just saw what happened on another world where they were out in public about who he was. And he sees that as possibly the failure of that. He's not sure, although later on in the show, Lois says, no, we have two amazing boys being raised by exceptional parents. Maybe we should trust them, kind of thing. And it's a big overarching thing. This episode is the secret of Superman and their Kryptonian origin. Because Jordan and Jonathan kind of want to tell people because they think keeping the secret is not necessarily working out so well, especially when Clark goes to stop Jonathan L. as Clark and gets distracted by Lana, and so he's unable, Jonathan gets away because he can't reveal his secret, and then he ends up kidnapping Lana and chaining her down and puts the pendant on her and says in reverse speech to her, it's time to come over, which signals her other self to come through the rift to join with Lana, because of course Lana is one of the cult leaders' lieutenants on that other world. And she of course has Kryptonian powers because she's married to Morgan Edge slash can't think of his name right now. His Kryptonian name. Tal-Rho, yeah. She's married to Tal-Rho, and she has Kryptonian powers now. And so she's supposed to be coming forward. That gets stopped by John Steele, John Henry, and his daughter. And actually, his daughter saves John because first John zaps her with a green kryptonite ray. Well, that just makes her feel better because she's been surrounded by all this X-kryptonite, which weakens her because she's from the Bizarro world, where X-kryptonite is the bad for her and green kryptonite's good. Well, he zapped her with a green kryptonite gun. She felt better. She's like, all right, more powerful, thanks. And then she gets ready to kick John's ass, and she's about to crush his head with her foot when his daughter hits her with X-kryptonite and basically drives her back through the portal. So she doesn't end up joining with Lana. But Jonathan sets a trap for Clark. He has this big radiator thing in this old meatpacking plant where he's chained Lana down. And he uses his fire breath, which is the Bizarro version of the cold breath that the Superman types normally have. And Clark thinks he's getting out of the way and not getting hit by it, but he actually uses it to blow up the radiator behind Clark, this big tank, and it's full of green kryptonite pellets that shoot into Superman, knocking him down, and then he stabs him with a kryptonite crystal. And then he flies away to go handle his shit with Jonathan. And so Lana has to pick all of these kryptonite crystals out of Superman, not Clark. Right now she just thinks of him as Superman. And Lois is seeing Jonathan and Jordan fighting again. as Jordan is there to protect his brother, and Jordan is getting his ass kicked. And then suddenly, Jordan looks up, and the swing from Jonathan comes, and Jordan catches the punch. Boom. And then suddenly, Jordan is a badass.
Yeah.
And he starts kicking Jonathan's head. He punches him up way into the sky. Then he flies up to get him and punches him. Then knocks him across the sky.
Jordan wasn't really flying. He was just jumping really, really high.
Right. Because he realized he was up in the sky. He's like, oh crap, and starts to fall. Now, Superman just in time swoops in, catches Jonathan and catches Jordan so they don't fall to the earth. Yeah, Jonathan L. and Jordan. And lands. And then Jordan comes up to Jonathan and says, this is for my brother. And so whack! And basically Jonathan is now captured and being held by Lois's father in the DOE. DOD, yeah. Yeah. And so he's being held basically where Morgan Edge used to be held. Which is equipped to hold Kryptonians. So that makes sense. And Clark comes to the family and they're all, complaining because Jordan was blowing up Sarah's phone trying to explain why he has been so distant and why he missed all the important things and stuff. And she'd been ignoring his text. And then Lois took his phone away and said, when I'm having trouble expressing things like this, I try to put it in a letter. So he writes a letter, and then Sarah finally responds to his text, but he don't have his phone. So now she feels like she's being ghosted. Really, it's just Mom took his phone away.
Yeah.
But Jordan writes out in his letter, and one of the things he put in his letter, besides the real lovey-dovey opening, which Jonathan gives him shit about, because it's a brother's job to do that. But he's going to reveal his secret to her, and of course, at a later time, Lois gets told to read the letter, and she's like, you were going to reveal the secret, and it's like, and stuff. But then Clark shows back up, and he says, you know what? I mean, I'm thinking that I'm going to need to tell. He implies, he never actually says it, but he's like, it's a family decision. And then immediately Lois is like, do it. Jordan and Jonathan, yes, absolutely. Yeah. They vote before he ever gets the words out of his mouth. He's like, okay, wish me luck. So he flies off.
And he's like, I like how Clark's like, that was a lot easier than I expected. I was anticipating more resistance there.
No, because he's the only one, I think, at that point that had wanted to keep the secret anymore.
Yeah. He didn't realize. He didn't realize until then. The only reason anyone's keeping this a secret is because
he's insisting, right? And so he flies off to go tell Lana. So he walks up on the road, and she comes up, and she's talking to Sarah on the phone because she had basically ghosted her daughter when she got kidnapped by Jonathan. So his daughter's been worried sick, and she basically, to keep Superman's secret for Jonathan because she doesn't want to cause trouble for the Kents, because Lana's that kind of good person, she's protecting the Kents by not saying that there's an evil Jonathan out there. She tells Sarah that the day just got away from her. She needed some alone time, and she just kind of ghosted everybody is what she claimed to have happened. But then she's like, I gotta go, because she sees Clark in the road, and he's like, I gotta talk to you. I mean, it's really important stuff. And she's like, yeah, I want to hear what you have to say, but right now you have no idea what I've gone through. And he says, yes, I have. I was there. And she's like, huh? And then he takes off his glasses, floats up in the air a little bit, blows frost breath on the tree behind her, and she's like, oh my God, you're Superman. And cut scene right there. They cut the episode. And that's the big reveal I've been waiting for. I wanted to see Clark reveal to Lana. I thought that was an important milestone in the show. and I'm glad they finally got around to it. I want to see the ramifications. For one, I think Lana will handle it better than some. Lana will not be offended by it. Lana will understand why she kept, just like she understood keeping Jonathan, evil Jonathan, from causing the Clark's trouble. She'll know why Clark kept the secret so long, and she'll be understanding. Sarah is, even when she gets the reveal, Sarah is going to be upset initially, I think. Yeah. But I think Lana will accept it.
So something I am thinking that might become an issue in future episodes is, Lana just got elected as mayor. And I think a big part of her push as being the mayor is bringing honesty to the office.
And she's going to have trouble keeping that secret.
Yeah, and she's going to have to lie to keep Clark's secret. I'm sure something's going to come up that I haven't thought of, that the writer's going to come up with, that pushes the boundaries of her having to keep her loyalty to Clark in a secret and her reputation for her
honesty as mayor.
As the mayor. Yeah, her reputation as the honest mayor.
But it isn't her secret to give out. That's part of it, and it is about protection. And it is about protection.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, and you and I know that, but the people of Smallville don't.
Right.
And I can see that being an interesting point for drama within the town of Smallville that Lana's going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm glad they did it. I'm very glad that they did it. And
come on, Kitty.
It's something I've been hoping that they would do for a while.
Yeah.
Now with her new station, with her new position, that adds.
But it also, her knowing who Superman is as mayor does give Smallville some advantages too.
It does. It has its benefits too.
Absolutely. Just like Barry revealing that he's the Flash to the new chief of police in Central City. Yeah. These are good reveals because it adds a weapon to their arsenal when they're trying to fight crime in their cities.
Not to distract from the show too much, but in the comic books currently, Superman's identity is known to the public. Like Superman revealed his identity to the public.
Right.
And because of this, Clark's parents, who are both alive still in this comic book,
continuity,
they had to be relocated to someplace safer than Smallville Farm. I don't know the whole story of why, but I saw a page today from a current Superman comic where Batman has them living in some place in the mountains or something like that. Nice house.
Bruce would be the person to do it, yeah.
Yeah, and in this universe, Alfred is dead. Like, he's passed away at some point.
Right.
And Batman's talking to the Kents, and, Jonathan Kent's like, I mean, I missed the farm, but I understand why we're here. And, and he talks about how important it is to keep their safety. And I don't remember how it's transitioned to this, but they mentioned Alfred, or they started talking about Alfred. And they reveal, like, Jonathan Kent reveals that the Kents and Alfred would have a phone call on a weekly basis to talk about Clark and to talk about Bruce. To talk about how proud they were of him.
Because
of their son, or basically.
Because Alfred was practically a father figure to Bruce, right?
Yeah. And like he's one of the few people in the world that they could confide in.
They could bond with, yeah.
Yeah.
They had that familial kind of bonding moment because they've got shared experiences with superheroes in the family.
Bruce had no idea of this combo. He's like, "Wait, how do you know Alfred? Oh, we had phone calls on a weekly basis to talk about you and Clark."
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it was so touching.
Well, remember, in the DC universe, a lot of people may not really realize this, especially after seeing Batman v Superman and stuff. People who don't follow the comics don't realize that Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent were like best friends eventually in the DC universe. They started out adversarial, and they became the closest of all the people in the Justice League. Even though Superman at some points dated Diana of Themyscira, even then, he was still closer to Bruce in a lot of ways, even though they were so different in how they approach crime fighting. And one is like all powers and the other is no powers. But in actuality, they were the closest as two brothers could be. And so this really makes something.
Show conversation, but that was a very touching comic book moment I just recently read that I wanted to share that connected with
that relates
right now.
It does relate.
With this episode, yeah.
And then I was trying to do a segue at the time and missed it because I was talking about the Flash and because we're now segueing to the Flash because we're going to get off of Superman and Lois this week, but I can't wait for tomorrow's episode. That's all I'll say further on that.
All right, so the Flash.
Okay, in the Flash, and you are the one that you have just recently finished watching this, so you're much more up on this one. I did a few hours ago, but I'm still pretty good. Okay, in the Flash, when we last left, we found that Deathstorm wanted Caitlin as his bride. And
we found out he's from someplace way out in the universe somewhere amongst the stars. He's been by himself for ages, and it took him like 7 years to fly to Earth. But with Caitlin's help, we got a power-up that allows him to teleport back and forth very quickly.
Yeah.
He wants to turn her into his bride, but she's not ready, and he has to make her feel
grief.
People's despair and grief.
To get her to that point. And so he keeps absorbing other people's grief and then feeding it into Caitlin, which she's translating it as grief over her father. And she's feeling more and more woe and despair. And so then he starts attacking the team again. Barry sees his mother. Allegra sees her cousin. And Chuck sees his father. And Iris actually sees Thorne, Detective Eddie Thorne. Yeah. And Eddie Thorne, and it's when he was their fiance is the time period that he's pulled from. And so they're both sapping amounts of grief. Now, the one girl that's with Iris, he's like, wait, why do I feel such, happiness and stuff from you? Before you took my phone, I hit the panic button. And Joe shows up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm happy because I'm rich, I'm pretty, I have all these things that I want. Oh, and also, before you destroyed another one of my brand new phones, I hit the panic button.
Yeah.
and Joe West comes in behind them and blasts them with a gun.
Yep.
Like some weird meta gun.
A meta gun, right.
Yeah.
Didn't
do much good, though.
Of course, Chester... Yeah.
He immediately got right back up and then crippled Joe and Sue with despair and grief.
Right. And then Chester had been working on the MAC, the Mind Augmentation Chamber, which is, of course, where Chester spent quite a bit of his time when he first joined. Because they were modifying it to adjust Frost's power to make her like an anti-death storm.
Yeah.
But it was going to take too long. So Frost calls in her boyfriend, who is, of course, a cryogeneticist. So he's an expert on cryonics. And so he goes to work, too, to help turn her into the anti-Death Storm. And it doesn't seem to be working. And Death Storm reveals to her that she's not a real boy. She's a Pinocchio. She's just an imitation of... Caitlin, and that's why she has no real grief for him to feed off of. It's just a copy of her grief. And because of that, she's not a real boy, and he convinces her that's why when they go to try to activate it, she's like, oh, maybe it's not working because I'm not a real living subject, and it takes a living subject. But then her boyfriend figures out and gets her to actually grieve. because that's the catalyst that's needed to transform her. And she goes from being Frost to being Hell Frost. And she looks badass. She has a badass transformation. I like her with the dark hair. I kind of miss the blue lips because that was always the signature of Frost, but still, everything else is badass. And she goes on to take on Deathstorm. And boy, and she tells him, like, no, this is my battle. Nobody else can help. And what if he overcomes you? He says, well, then you'll get me out of there in a flash. And that reveals to her boyfriend that, wait a minute, Barry Allen's the Flash.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't been in on a secret yet.
Yeah.
Because of course he used to be a villain, and so we're kind of slow to trust, which happens.
Reasonably so.
Reasonably so. But eventually everybody gets to know Barry is the Flash.
Every hero can be as trusting as Goku when the villain decides to be a good guy.
Right?
Like Goku's like immediately, oh, you want to help? Great, join the party. You're
right.
Now.
Flash turns a lot of villains into heroes, but it takes a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, she goes out, she fights Deathstorm, she kicks his ass. She's like, see, took it, and then Katie wakes up, and then Hellfrost passes out. And
she basically kills Deathstorm and absorbs him, and then passes out.
And then I don't feel okay. And she has to be rushed in. And then Katie goes to work on her sister.
Yeah, Katie wakes up from her coma and immediately goes to do medical work on her sister to try to revive her.
Because she's the only one that's even possibly capable of doing it. Yeah. Because she is the medical doctor of the team, among other things. But, and this is the super spoiler of the episode, the super downer, Frost dies.
Yeah.
Caitlin points it out, and she had promised her boyfriend that she would be back. She'd even given him a kiss and said there's more where that comes from when she gets back. And she doesn't end up getting to live up to that because Frost dies. And the next episode, they've already put some previews out, is all about them handling the grief of Frost's death. Because they haven't had a major death like this in a little bit. And so Frost's death is going to hit the team really hard. I believe it's going to hit Barry and Caitlin and Cecile probably the most. Cecile being an empath, and then Barry.
There's the boyfriend. He's probably.
Well, yeah, and the boyfriend. He's going to be hit hard, and I'm not sure how he's going to handle it. If he's going to go back to being a criminal, or if he's going to volunteer to take her place on the team.
I was going to say, I don't know what's going to be the short term for his immediate reaction to it, but I do think long term he's going to take her place on the team.
Either that.
Cryogeneticist.
Either that.
It's right that can create ice too, right?
Either that, or it's going to be his exit from the show. It's going to be one of those two. He's either going to take her place on the team, or it's going to be his official exit from the show, because he can't handle the grief. Because there's already talk that the show might get canceled next season after this shorter season. It might not. It might be something for transitioning over to HBO Max, that they're doing a shorter season and then they'll jump it over to HBO Max. We don't know. They haven't fully revealed it, but we do know that it's shorter season, as Lurch covered last week with his reveal. They might be winding down the Flash. They might be just transitioning the Flash. I'm hoping personally for a transition. If nothing else, I would love to see them transition from focusing on Barry to focusing on Nora and Bart, because they're the Flash kids and they've got enough to handle their own show too. There are other shows still in the works. We don't know if they're going forward or not. We've got the new Diggle show. We've got that's the DCU. We've got Gotham Knights that may or may not still happen. We've got the HBO Green Lantern Corps series that's supposed to start soon. We've got the Constantine show that's supposed to start soon, but we don't have dates for. We've got the Penguin show from the movie that's supposed to start soon. We've got so much up in the air in the DC universe, but a lot of it is going to be ending up on HBO Max now because they're looking to sell the CW. And if they sell the CW, then more than likely all the DC stuff is not going to go with the CW. It's going to end up going directly over to HBO Max or one of the other networks in the HBO Discovery team. And Berlanti and his people will go with that. And we'll see what happens. So we do know they've pretty much assured us that Superman and Lois is going to continue. But they've also taken great pains to not fully link Superman and Lois with the rest of the CW verse. I mean, they were spin-offs of the CW verse, but they've tried really carefully not to make too many links to keep them separate. Same thing with Stargirl. Stargirl has not linked up with the CW verse directly. The closest we got was getting Jay Garrick in there as the Flash in one episode. But they've been real careful about not fully linking them, so they may not have as much trouble keeping Stargirl or Superman and Lois without too many changes. But for the Flash to survive, there's going to have to probably be changes. And we know that Legends of Tomorrow is getting canceled, as is Batwoman. Now, Batwoman was not getting as big of a following, so I can understand that. But Legends of Tomorrow has had its ups and downs. But then again, it might just be at its logical conclusion point, too. Although it would have been nice to have seen Booster Gold played out.
Yeah.
But there's always the potential for Booster Gold to be played out in one of the other series moving forward.
I was doing a quick little skim read. So, seasons 6, 7, and 8, with this current season being 8, were all part of like an overall plan from the showrunners and writers for this overall like arcing plan that they had, that they're mostly sticking to for this, throughout the season. And apparently there will be a season 9, but they, at least as of the time of the writing of this article where they're talking about their plans for seasons 6, 7, and 8, the season 9 will require a new plan on what will be done for season 9. But 8 has been planned since season 6.
Right.
Additionally, the actor that plays Joe West, Iris's father, is doing a new show next year, so he will not be a regular character on The Flash any longer.
And they've been slowly distancing him a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
We've seen a heck of a lot more of Cecile than we've seen of Joe.
Right.
Even though there are a couple, we see Cecile in almost every episode. We see Joe in like one of 3 episodes.
I mean, he was in this episode for like
a minute.
Scene.
Yeah, a minute. Yeah.
He was barely in it.
Joe has been in there. He's come in, given Barry some advice, and disappeared. And that's kind of been his thing. And so he's like only in like a third of the episodes so far this season.
And that's kind of been a growing thing for a while, ever since he quit his job at the police station.
Yeah. So they've been gradually distancing him, and that's probably in preparation for his new show, because they know that they're only going to get him for cameos after that. I'm still looking forward to the cameos that we're going to get to expect from some of our Lost shows, because Black Lightning, Jefferson from Black Lightning has said that he would come back anytime they wanted him to for Black Lightning. Uh, and although Melissa Benoit has not said she would do a lot, she did say that she would do an occasional comeback cameo. And I think when they finally do try to roll in Stargirl into the main CW, if they ever get to it now, those would be good times to bring in some of these others. But they've already basically flat out said they're never going to do another Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yeah.
That was just too big to top.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to Moon Knight.
Yeah, it's already 10 o'clock. Oh my God, we got so much to talk about. It's already 10 o'clock, and this is the season finale Moon Knight. Do you want to hold it off and talk about it next episode? I mean, so much happened, and I don't want to rush through this one.
Yeah. Maybe we should just kind of.
We'll just gloss over real quick without any too many spoilers.
Just get some basic. I mean, I wouldn't be worried about spoilers, but maybe just like a brief.
Okay.
Over
as a brief highlight, when we last saw Stephen and Mark, they were in the afterworld, sailing on a ship. Mark had gotten turned to stone in the Duat, which is kind of the in-between world. And then Stephen had just made it into the can't remember.
Mark made it to the Field of Reeds. Stephen was...
Actually, no, it was the other way around. It was Stephen that made it into the Field of Reeds. Because at the start of the show, they said that was Stephen.
No.
I just rewatched it today.
Stephen's the one who fell over the side of the boat into the sand. Mark is the one who made it to the Field of Reeds. And someone's even made a point about how Stephen loves Egyptian lore, and he didn't even get to see the Field of Reeds when Mark went.
I could have swore that today when I rewatched it that they said that was Stephen and Mark was the one that was left. But I could have not been paying attention. Anyway, he did make it to the Field of Reeds, and Tawaret did basically say, hey, your heart's in balance, you can stay here now. He's like, yeah, but what about, I guess, Stephen? And he's like, I can't leave him like that. And so he goes back and he rescues Stephen, and they go through the gates of Osiris and come back. Now, while this is going on, what's her name? His wife.
Is it Layla?
Layla. Yeah. I couldn't remember her name. Layla is, dealing with Arthur Harrow, who's traveling to go set Ahmet free. Yeah. And Tawaret is talking to her through dead bodies, saying, hey, basically, Mark's the one telling me, to tell you this. He's in the afterworld and stuff, and you can't take him on alone. But hey, maybe you can be my avatar. I've heard good things about you. And
Mark speaks so kindly of you.
Yeah. And she's like, I ain't being nobody's avatar. I'll work in cooperation, but I don't. And she does find Khonshu's statuette, and she breaks it to let Khonshu free. And he's like, I do not detect Mark Spector in this world. And so he offers the avatar ship to Layla. And she's like, you crazy? You made Mark's life a living hell. Hell no. Mark didn't trust you. I don't trust you. I'll do what I can as partners, but I'm not doing that avatar crap. And he's like, well, there's a spell to lock Ahmet back up, but it takes an avatar to do it. And he says, no, you're not going to trick me into becoming an avatar. No way.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, right? And then Mark and Stephen manage to get back into the body. And Khonshu detects this and goes back and he helps Steven and Mark. And they don't bring the epic Moon Knight copter into the show, which a lot of people were kind of hoping to see. Because Moon Knight, like Batman in the early comics, had some great vehicles. Batman was kind of like known for his Batcopter, Batcycle, Batmobile. Well, Moon Knight had this Batcopter that looked like a crescent moon that was just an awesome vehicle. They don't do that, but Khonshu's like, well, I am the god of the night. And so gives him this cool flying scene where he does it in that crescent moon shaped thing with his cape. And he flies across Egypt to catch up with everybody.
I am the god of the night. I am the lord of the night sky.
Right. And, you know, and I'm the protector of the travelers of the night. So if anybody can cause you to travel in the night, it's Khonshu. So he becomes the avatar of Khonshu, and Layla relents and does become Tawaret's avatar. And she's like, and Tawaret's like, I've got such a great idea for your costume.
I think it's worth mentioning real quick here before they fly off. He does like, we need to make a deal here, though. You need to release us, both Mark and Steven. Both of us.
Yeah, Steven's like, yeah, what's the deal after this is all done? He says, well, then I will be done with both of you. Oh, okay. I can live with that.
Yeah.
And so they come, and then Layla takes Tawaret's offer and becomes her avatar. She says, oh, I have such a wonderful idea for a costume. And she gets this badass costume that has nothing to do with Tawaret's look, because she's a hippo with a lion's claws and all this other stuff. But the costume has got like freaking silvery or gold wings, and it's just badass bird costume. But it also relates to another character from the comic books. Oh yes, she does.
I looked it up. Her comic book hero name is Scarlet Scarab.
Scarlet Scarab is the character that it's supposed to be likening to, yes. And it has to do with the nickname that her dad had for her as Little Scarab as she was growing up. But they have some great combat sequences. Layla is badass in them. But of course, Mark and Steven working together for once really pays off. And then at the end, they catch Arthur and they lock him up in an asylum because both of them refuse to kill, even though Khonshu wants him to be killed to keep the balance. Yeah. Also, I did gloss over this. We didn't talk about it, but when Amet was released, she agreed to take Arthur as her avatar, even though he wasn't in balance, because she once had a partner that was in balance, and that led to her being captured. So she didn't want an avatar that was in perfect balance. And he's like, I got thousands of followers that are in perfect balance for you. I accept your judgment. He says, no, you're going to be my avatar. It's safer this way. I won't get locked up this way. So you're my avatar. You're the one that released me. There you go. So she's like really looking out for herself by saying, you know what? I might be the goddess of balance and shit and stuff. And the ways you're going to be really out of balance is when you're serving me. But guess what? You're still serving me because I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so
someone that's willing to be unbalanced to balance my world.
Right. And we have a big battle scene between Khonshu and Amet with the avatars fighting and then the gods fighting at the same time.
The gods are giant, so they're basically kaiju monsters fighting in the desert. And
it's a mirror of what their avatars are doing as they fight Arthur Harrow versus Mark, Steven, and Layla in a big, massive, like 4-way battle, actually. 5-way if you really count Mark and Steven as two separate ones.
Yeah.
And
there's a point where like Layla's like penned up and Mark and Steven are losing and things are looking pretty dire, and then they black out, and then suddenly everyone around them is dead.
Yeah, and then Steven goes to Mark, did you do this? No. Is that you? No.
And then Layla's like, what the hell was
that? That? Right, so we get another one of those blackout moments now, and that leads to the final scene of the episode after they've locked Arthur Harrow up. Then Arthur gets basically taken out of the asylum and into a white limousine, which is another classic Moon Knight vehicle. And Khonshu is across him on the bench talking to Arthur Harrow. And he says, Mark, Steven have no idea how broken they really are. Knocks on the divider window. And we finally get the third alter, the cabbie.
Yeah. And he's like, let me introduce you to Jake Lockley. The third personality.
Right. And Jake Lockley is the most ruthless of the alters in the Mark Spector Steven mix. And he is still inviting Khonshu in. So even though he agreed not to mess with Mark or Steven, we still have Jake.
Yeah. Jake.
And as long as Jake lets him in, he still has access to the body. So it basically nulls his agreement with Mark and Steven. So they still have to deal with him.
And then Jake mercilessly just shoots Arthur in the head in the limo.
We never actually see the result of the shot, but he drives away, and it's implied that Arthur was just killed in cold blood.
And they drive away, and the plating on the back of the limo says Spectre.
Yep. And so, which is classic with the comic book, because it was one of the classic vehicles, even though Lockley was the one that drove it. But Lockley's actually a cab driver. But he's driven the limo, he's driven the cab, he's piloted the copter before. Lockley is their vehicle specialist and the most ruthless aspect of their personality. He's them with no qualms. So, he basically does what Khonshu says.
Yeah. He's the one that Khonshu really wants. So, yeah.
Because he has no morality. Jake Lockley has no morality.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen enough Jake Lockley to know, but we do know that he is...
In the comic books, he has no morality.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he is the extreme, where Steven is the other extreme with extreme morality, and Mark is the middle ground.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that pretty much wraps up the finale. We don't know if there's going to be another season or not. I'm hoping there is.
Oh, yeah. Especially with all the hints of the gods in Thor, Love and Thunder that's getting ready to come out. They're touching on other mythologies now, because we know for a fact the Greek mythology is going to be handled to an extent in Love and Thunder. And of course, Thor is going to be there, and alternate Thor, is going to be there. Alternate Thor, Jane Foster.
Oh.
Alternate Thor. We know that Jane Foster Thor and Thor are going to be there. Other things that could end up surprising us that we haven't been told about yet. I would love to see something like Beta Ray Bill show up.
Yeah.
I mean, Beta Ray Bill would be awesome. We know that Zeus is going to show up, which makes us assume that probably Hercules is going to show up, because we've got a classic rivalry, friendly rivalry between Thor and Hercules.
Yeah.
Because Moon Knight just ended, we don't know if at least we might get a cameo by Moon Knight, because the interconnectivity, Kevin Feige is showing us that he has no qualms at all about mixing his connectivity. I mean, we've had Charlie Cox in Spider-Man already as Daredevil. He wasn't Daredevil, he was just Matt Murdock, but his catching that brick that came through the window shows that he is Daredevil as well as Matt Murdock.
I read his next appearance will be in She-Hulk.
Yeah, that's supposed to be his next appearance. But Kevin Feige has pretty much shown us that he's willing to mix the TV and movies a lot more than they were done in the past. If nothing else, frickin' Doctor Strange shows that the TV shows are much more important than they originally thought. And so I am so looking forward to the reveals of Love and Thunder. Even if we don't get Beta Ray Bill, even if we don't get some of the other stuff, we're still going to get so much more. And then we've got Ant-Man and the next in Quantumania, where we're going to get a version of Kang the Conqueror for sure, and we're going to get some other stuff.
That's next summer.
Next February, I think, is when it was pushed to.
I think it was pushed to next summer.
I thought they said February 2023 last I read, but it could be more. But we've got so much more coming.
Out. I do think we have a February movie. I just don't think it was Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think it was something else. Guardians 3, maybe. I'm not sure.
But we've got so much more coming out.
Yeah, over the next year, we got like 6 Marvel movies. Right,
and then we've got a good few DC movies too, because we've got Flash, Black Adam,
if any of them actually
the Aquaman 2. I know some of them are in long hiatus, but then there's the restructuring going on with Warner Brothers right now, so we don't know. Just like when just when Marvel and Disney combined, there was a little bit of restructuring. DC and Warner Brothers are having some restructuring issues, so there might be delays and there might be some new cancellations. I mean, some of the things we've been promised just aren't happening. We know Black Adam is happening because The Rock is fully behind that one. He is driving that one. And it's done. It just hasn't been released. So we know that Black Adam is going to happen. When it happens is still a little bit up in the air. We got a lot of stuff waiting in the wings for us. We are loving the landscape of the comic book universes that we're seeing. There's so many different indie comics coming to TV and movies. So different universes are being tried out. There is at least 2 more Kingsman movies in the works. And there's talks to be as many as 7. We've got more stuff. I mean, Jupiter's Legacy didn't go well, but other movies in that franchise, like the Kingsman, they're from that same creator universe. Millerverse. Yeah, the Millerverse. Other things from the there's supposed to be the was it like what's called Black Jesus or whatever is supposed to show up. Anyway, they've had Supermansion, the cartoon, was interesting. There was a supervillain show cartoon that was really good that came from that. We've got all these other things that are still peeking in on us. We are over, as Lurch tried to draw me into saying.
Yeah. We're a bit over, so let's wrap it up.
We're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
We may go into more detail about Moon Knight next week. Depending on when we can get with Angel, we will go into some spoiler stuff for Doctor Strange. Yeah. Because I want to talk spoilers, but I don't want to. I want to save that for the 3-way conversation.
I want to get in touch with Angel, which I mean, him and I talk almost on a daily basis.
So see if he can make it next week or the week after. Because I don't want to wait too long.
Next week. Let's see if we can get him next week, and that'll be our main topic. Like, we'll plan for like an hour on that subject.
Yeah, I'll have a couple of other topics ready in case, but I'm only going to mainly be I'll have my vault, for instance, and I'll be ready to talk about the new Arrowverse shows. But I may not have. I'll have a Kickstarter ready, but I won't necessarily go into it if we don't need to. And be the same with
Tomorrow-
you. Have
I
like
think tomorrow,
What?
I believe it is. We're getting a Nintendo event to show some stuff, and if anything big comes out of that, I'll probably bring it up next week. But keep it short, Keep it
Yeah.
news things, other news things like really short, and so we can get to the big stuff.
push them off to the next week if we can get that big discussion going. Because I think we can spend an hour or more with Angel. We could probably easily spend our whole show on Doctor Strange, and it deserves it. The movie deserves it. So we will catch everybody next week. Same bat
it's
time.
Not just the movie, it's the other things it means for the rest of the multiverse, or for the rest
Oh,
of the
yeah.
MCU as well.
The impact on the MCU is huge. We will hopefully not have the technical issues we had next week, so we can get started on time. Again, if you want to watch rewatches of this, it'll be in the Gamer Seuss queue over on YouTube under the Game Time playlist. I usually move it over within the week. Usually in 1 or 2 days, I'll have it over there. And then in the playlist, and then you can rewatch it. And you can also rewatch all of our old episodes. We will catch everybody same bat time, same bat channel. And let's end this in the classic Stan Lee way with Excelsior.
I was gonna say by the hoary host of Hogarth. Let's get out of here.
That's right. Bye-bye, everybody.
My